We're live. We're live. We're testing the sound of my voice. It seems like it's receiving sound. I'm just going to open the field and see who joins. I'm going to stay on for an hour. And I'm going to just start talking for the replay. But I wanted to get back on a regularly scheduled live schedule. When I started to do this work at the very, very beginning of sharing this work on the internet, I was on TikTok and I went live like almost every day, and it was such a joy. And I met so many cool people, and there was such like a beautiful feeling of community. And as I'm transitioning into full-time work, full-time, I hesitate to call this a business because it feels so much just like my life, but this as full-time work, I really wanted to commit to coming on live because I feel like it's a really beautiful way to connect and for people to connect to each other also, not just to me, but to each other, and to set intentions and to share intentions. So just as a setup, because this is the first Tuesday night live, that you should feel free to share in the comments your intentions, your healing. There were a couple of things that came through before as I was sitting here getting ready for the live. It might sound dramatic, but this sort of feeling of impending doom and just like really deeply felt anxiety that we want to release, let that come up to release. And then bringing a focus to gratitude. It's really important. And it seems really basic, and it is, but that's because it works. And optimism and patience and openness and enjoyment and presence, and just opening to these things and letting what wants to come through in the messages to come through. There's a lot lighting up in the back of the sacral. This is really coming through to me these days as this kind of like wings. You know, the hip bones almost look like wings, right? And then the shoulder blades we think of as wings. But I've been noticing so much, especially as I have been in Taos, in all of this quiet and all of this openness, that all of the sort of physical pain that's still held in my body is being really highlighted because everything else is so quiet. So I've just been really hyper sort of aware of the connections that are coming through, representationally, because we are not our bodies, but in them, right? And just all of this emission coming out of this sort of hip zone, and how that's so connected to, it's like the hand drive. I'm doing the hand drive, connected to the weight here, and just this sort of opening, and even like the posture, alignment. We really want to call forth deep ease and peace in the body. So because this is live and people will come in and out, feel free to connect as you feel called and what makes sense for you. I'm just going to kind of let her rip, and I'll be checking the chat if people feel like they want to leave comments or if they have intentions that they want to set. I don't really think light codes work by the way of requests. I think that it's all like, it's like spirit knows what you ask for before you ask. You know what I mean? So it's what comes through when we set intentions, and then we sort of allow what is underneath of those intentions to sort of be revealed from us. But there's a lot of energy of certainly receiving. I'm going to do a series, release and receive. It's a 4-video series that we're going to start tomorrow to really get into the core. But let's start playing through some codes here. Hiani onokoim satoshi. I hope everyone is doing really, really well and is having a beautiful evening or day wherever you are in the world. Hianaya suya kiyamaya yunoyontaya nitayan. Shiato kayanaya suya nimari kindirito yoko wiyasha. Sinian satus ungeritas nundro arritis nikian soinchiritis nadrayoni porro kayasnata. As we open up into this healing session is really what it's coming through. Opening up the third eye center, opening to vision, opening to stillness in the mind, clearing the cobwebs, clearing the cloudiness, clearing confusion, centering in clarity, centering in peace, calming the nerves. Hiotoso yishamasna, hinayin yoptoro kanayasi, hinayan chiri tuyo kum nindarai indiritis non to yashunoyon saya shikayas natrani. And if you guys feel things coming through in your awareness, please feel free to share them. Hiniam na oru, suyon chokoro at kanayanto koami, sionto sinsi tishnis nindrikani niana. Hini kian sandoyo soin shaya kuyono toniam nati siritin taya koro kayait. Lots in the brain. Lots in this kind of like executive function zone. Hiniumdoro, yayashni sinsikis. This can manifest as like overthinking, calming the mind. Lots coming through for calming the mind. Hyayoshunayani yansini kananda hatati soni korkyasnindisi shinitisan. Kinyan yoto yani tioma yani kinyan siyoshoro kanisitis yai. Hini tayani kim nato sonjiritis nontos shinikin sirite yotian soro. Maybe I'll chat as that's coming through so people know what I'm witnessing. Koyotosum sayi shiriti and saya soyo koro kanasin dis. Kyosontoro kinayan shinintisin sinindri kayaya tosuchi shini kintis natas. Toro kanayin shitis indio sunjimisin sinisan shikiati sotsuki beai tiasa. Orkinam nasunjitisin sinishi sunis daraisyoso kinasan shikeasnot. Kima orkini sinzion sotamna kini sinjiriti sikina hini tinim nain. Hini ti sinjiriti orkoni biataya koyo soyashiti si. Hiasana shana kana tayana kono yunjati kini kina. Hini ansanain siriti rikiri kini nanantu. Huro hin saratu suni. Shu orkanamna sini shini kini hinianta kanayan choripara. Aya kuno yon son jinindisa. Shitiso sin zinimono koin sin chios. Sian satisian shi isoyo queen dioptor kiniti sun. Hyonayana undoyoso shi siotisia. Clearing in the sinuses, clearing for eyesight, clearing for sort of connecting to higher, more expanded vision. We're using the body sort of representationally, but it is ascending the form also. So it's all, it all depends on what dimensional perspective you're looking at it from, right? So it's like you can choose to see it manifest through different dimensional sets, but it's all the same. It's all in the same place. So it's sort of always bringing into our awareness how we are choosing which dimensional perspective we are witnessing, we are experiencing. And so we are reattaching to where we are already, but reattaching in our awareness to ascended form. Yani no arui misini. Shonin zokanain zioto shamsatis. And it's almost like flushing out, just like flushing out the lower. Hinin yomdor kinaya nitisan jakinam nayo tu. Hita sunje kinin sinindi ho yayin ya kiana sinsatis yo shor. Yasno to som shakina sansa. Shin zaratium socorro kina inziriti, hior quim sata, wundi baraya sumniana. Yakoyo kundi sinishinium daratuyum niasun chikis nitisi kisi. Daihaya tunam nayani yayata suyashanasa. Sinisin dayatayatiani kinini amnatu sunjatanas natrayat. Hyom yakyanayonium to sanjayasi. Hina tunam nakinayanitium sonda. Jaya sunsokonotoyam na yo yayinitiana kayanasa. Sio soshanasaya kinatun nimnatisi. Sindiriana waso shamati. Hinatani niam toko anjirion sokana tinam naya tasitaya tasa. Shokor queen. It's like dissolving overlays, just overlays of time, overlays upon overlays upon overlays, clearing mental. Soya shamayato sun jiritis. Koro kayas nota. Sunyani mianayo noyo. Huyam nayo. Yaya kyonu kunimiani. Lightness of being. Joyous nitiasat. Certainty in self in God. Kyo rokoasniam zion duyapti. Hyuni koyam ni shininium. Yotiasayanianaya niya yanatusum sakasi. It's oroa namnahin. Sayatuniam nati sanzanishi kian zayation hita samzayishi nioya kia yihioya. Hionium tayation noyam nisoyam shinitia yiti sian zoishinitian soyaka. Hiom natasunya shinium satis nadrahion. Imikina unuyo tuma inikinian zanaya nio shonsokinatas. Hinatuyum nukor kinian sui shiniti sanai. Lots bubbling to the surface for release. I'm starting to get really hot, so it's a purge. But now it's coming through as like, let that come through the skin to clear imperfections, impurities, like purging out through the pores. Hiniamna kunimini shinion suini. Hianayanium natio. Hior katuyumna. Shonayin sokuntis doshiritis inzirit. And it is coming through as like angelic DNA, but the message is really coming through as like, let's remember what like angel means, right? So if we think about that as like a messenger of God or a messenger of the divine, then angelic DNA would be carrying divine presence, carrying divine consciousness on that code and expressing that divine consciousness, giving and receiving, emitting, offering, proclaiming, praising, communicating that divine consciousness through the vibration of the DNA structure, bringing that into beingness here where we find ourselves. And remembering here isn't so much of a physical place when we're all in different physical places, but it's not as much of a bringing it down into here, but it's here in the sense of the presence of where you are aware of yourself right now, if that makes sense. But the message keeps coming through of seeing ourselves clearly, seeing yourself clearly. Hinin soyoshi. So that's not seeing yourself in illusion, seeing yourself in doubt, seeing yourself in fear. It's seeing yourself in the light of your own abundance, the light of your own joy, the one light of your truth. So there's just ease in walking in the field, being met immediately with all of the resource that you would need because it's of you already. And we talked about this in maybe yesterday, it must have been yesterday's YouTube video, of receiving, redefining, reorchestrating the code of the definition in our belief structure of what receiving means, that it's not getting something that you don't have, but it's reworking our awareness into understanding that giving and receiving are like one instantaneous process, one and that receiving is noticing and being aware of that which is already yours and expecting to see it. Joyful anticipation. How about that? Would like that. I hope everyone's having a really lovely evening. Thank you guys for joining me. If you have intentions to set, if you are noticing things in the field, in the transmission, and you feel comfortable sharing them, please do. Hini tasa, thank you. Thank you for being here. Hia tisa ini kianaya ni tayom noin sataya tia takaraya yatosum sani tayata hini ancharata samsi. I'm so happy to be back doing lives. I said in the beginning, but when I first started doing this work, I went on live on TikTok like all of the time. And it was such a beautiful way to connect in real time with everyone and like make friends and just recognize each other and remember each other. And I'm happy to be back here. I'm happy to be in a space where I feel like I can offer this again. Hini anaya no no korui ayon soti shinikin sata. Himi ayo no hyumdo yumiti kyun. Hini anshi sininian sati siti soyoshinisi. Hina kana tratos oyasun jininda yunoma ruiti saya. Hindarayo toim sini kianayani. Hiato yanamnatrayo nosum sakinatrato suchiniti sanai. I keep seeing this beautiful divine column of light, this beingness as a beam. Hiniandato borkanana ma. Horkonimi sanjana sansaki. Natranosum zonjin ditianaya sitain dioptokoin sitisin. Sianashan sariti siasion soko ini shiniti sansoki. Shiniti sinzamdaya kinatana tayan tayasoyashaya kieta. Ruipo, it's like lighting up magnetism within, awareness of enlightened magnetism, letting the meaning of that kind of be revealed to you. I don't really know how to describe that. Kinian son chinisan horokunamna tosum yanian soin chinitisna so yanimian chitio yetisi kinta yatomaya natasa. Yanoyan shunikum zati so shinikin dayono yomni soya shunition sikaya ina tuyun hyo yakinata hyoro piata hyoro kanayana yarayiri yorokoini yorokonamnatra yatosiasha. This came through last night as I was doing some work just around the house. Like I walk around and do this sometimes. It feels like I don't know. I just walk around and do this. And then this has come through for a while, but that it's sort of like we're rooting from the heart now. Like it's the rolling up of lower dimensions into like a heart root. So our heart is rooting as like the baseline of the new to us physical expression of this next holographic universe, if you will, this next expression of solar consciousness. So if we think of, I think there is something to this kind of triads of harmonics, and what you call that, I think, is not mutually agreed upon by everybody, and like use whatever words work best for you. But I do notice like in thirds. So it feels like in this expression of where we are and where we're going and where we're physically manifesting from it now, going forward in time, the heart is the root. And so we're like, I mean, that's why we call it ascension, right? That is like it's a lifting up. It's a rising sun. That's why I named this live this. This is what this feels like. It's a rising. So allowing yourself to let go of old ideas and structures of physicality, of energy centers, and just let them, don't try to smush what's coming through into like old beliefs or old representations. Like let it just kind of be what it is. And even if it doesn't make sense, just kind of go with it and see where it leads. Like, let spirit lead, let the intuition lead, let the messages and the presence lead. And it's a lot about like what we're paying attention to also. Now we're bringing through into the throat, inikian satis, but it still also feels like a lot of work in the brain. And if you resonate with like galactic consciousnesses, you can definitely use this work to connect to yourself, the self, different consciousness streams. When I first started doing this work, they did appear as other beings. Now to me, everything kind of just looks like nebulous current, and then it feels away. But there certainly is a lot of assistance available, a lot of family. There's what is it? I3 Atlas. They're saying it's a comet. I'm not really sure what it is. That's floating through our solar system, and it's gonna come right through the center and fly by Earth. I feel this is I like space weather. I like to pay attention to space weather. I feel like this is significant. I feel like there are messengers of peace to be communicated with. Obviously, at all times we can do this, but we do find ourselves on Earth, right, in time, communicating with each other in bodies, and we are reuniting with all kinds of different kinds of life, right? So certainly this kind of healing can be used to reconnect with. I think first it's most important to do it as parts of yourself, and then communicate with those consciousness streams in those different manifestations through your self there. Nas natru konam nain shikimitin sikimikianayan nishimikian siritis. It is coming through as like sky beings. So this doesn't necessarily have to be like aliens as we think of it, but it is like the spirits of the sky. It's coming through as like elemental forces, also like very archetypal forces, just like forces of current, not like force as in like manipulation or anything like that. It's all very, very peaceful. But also I want to mention, if you feel like there's like a negative aspect coming through, it's really important not to be afraid and to go back into neutrality and to recognize that as a part of self that is coming through for you to forgive. And we do that by staying in neutrality and seeing through the center of that being into their core. So if you see something, just the same way, if you see something scary or someone doing something in a human body that you don't like or you don't resonate with, or it feels dangerous or whatever to you, the same way in communicating with inter and multi-dimensional realms and beings there. This is why I always stress that the compassionate neutrality practice and getting into your own divine core and seeing in unity, seeing in one, seeing the one life is so important first, so that when you do encounter those kinds of things, because it's going to be like your ego attempting to get you to stop. So it all depends on how also you choose to see it, right? I do find that the ego lashes out and attack thoughts to get you to stop looking at the truth of your being. And so that comes through as other people. other people's egos. It can come through as all sorts of different things you might perceive in the field. It can come through as your own emotions and negative thoughts, right? So those are all the same underlying currents. But the way that we heal is to see the truth in all things, see the one light of the truth in all things. And through your attention, through how you allow that to flow through your awareness, because where does it, where your attention goes, your energy flows, your energy expands, right? You expand that light within them through your recognition of it, from recognizing it from yourself, and you meet each other there, and that expands the truth in that place. And two things can't be at once. So you're, in a sense, replacing what you saw before with the truth. And I think that's what forgiveness is. Kini kinam na kunin chokuna yuni kini kiani kyoyoto koragitis sinjo yisi yasin pinatumit. I'm not spelling that right, but I don't know back. Kiasakiana in shiritisa kayator kayanamna yonotoma kini yamna kuyun chokonim sikasani in shinitium soinjakor. This feels important because we're definitely at a stage where there's going to be a lot more change more quickly, and a lot of like multidimensional, interdimensional communication change on Earth. And that's going to manifest in many, many different ways. You could notice plants sort of speaking to you, animals kind of speaking to you. Like as you expand in your awareness, you notice the life everywhere, right? And so we don't want to like freak out and feel like we're going crazy when that happens. So we really want to anchor in the assistance that's coming through in order to like reorient ourselves to where we are in life. And that's all about dissolving bounds of separation, right? You see the one life in everything, and then you're not afraid when different methods of communication start coming through, because I think that's going to be like more and more prevalent as we focus and expand, and more people choose to do that, because this is like consensus reality in the physical, and there are different layers of that. This is a common example, but when like people you used to hang out with just sort of seem to fall out of your life, well, then you're not physically resonant with them anymore. But we are all I don't know if we're all living on the same earth. I don't, then this is why I don't always talk about this stuff, because then I'm like, let's talk about all of it. And then you start to get, those aren't really the things that matter, but there is just, the field is infinite. And in terms of like the larger timeline, right? It's fun, but then it's also like, I'm losing the thread. I agree. And then the comment is, I still don't know what to make of the 3D, 5D split thing. And I think people might be talking about what I was sort of talking about is like the triads, and sort of ascending up that way, and that we're like grounding in a new baseline. But I don't know if I think, because we're not living in 3D, right? Our thoughts are not 3D, and our emotions are not 3D. So this is not just a 3D world. So that does not ever really resonated with me. And I just, you guys hear me talk about this all the time. Like, don't limit, right? Don't limit what it can be. And that's why I don't like even calling it light language, because it's more than both of those things. And if you say it's X light language, this is coming from X, I don't think that's, I think that that's a lower dimensional way. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just not the most expanded view that you could take. And so when you limit the field in your definition of what things are, you're limiting your own experience of what you allow through you. And so why would we do that, right? When we can just sort of let it all, don't stop there. You know what I mean? Like let it be more. Yeah, I think that that's probably true. And none of it's bad, right? Everybody is, as there are dimensions within dimensions, and that's why like the number thing can be limiting, because it's an infinite field, and it's infinite possibility, and it's not just one thing. It's infinite things, and it's all about what it means to you, right? So there are overlapping beliefs and sort of consensus pockets within that to help people talk to each other about it, right? But then I think we can also get kind of distracted with those definitions and trying to make what we're receiving fit, and then what doesn't fit gets kind of left out, right? And then you're not noticing everything that wants to come through you to be offered. So like, let it be weird, let it not make sense, let it not fit into what other people are saying. But that our ego thinks that that has to be oppositional to others or judgmental of others, but it doesn't. You just stop paying attention to it. You know what I mean? And you just let people be with their, and that's why I always try to reemphasize that, like, we don't connect ever at the level of our egos. The ego doesn't connect, the ego separates. So like, we're connecting at the level of where definitions in duality dissolve, and so they just become irrelevant. Yeah. Iniyani kuyonjoni mayani tion soyushini kinsayani toyotokoa soyoshu yani toyom nikin sinitian sanitia kiai hianaya tor kayaya tosuchi sanandraisa sion sioshiri tisani anatoyom nikinitis hini tayakoni mikanaim sio toyokina toyatini tisa natiamaya yoto Kina sonjono samzayi shiritisan sani tindikini kianaya niondo himia sayasu shiti saya kyon yamna koroko nikian satasonzuisha. There's lots of like physical healing coming through. Let it heal you. Let yourself believe that that you could be physically healed. Like, so much of this work is letting yourself believe that you are already healed, and like just letting that be and letting that happen. I wonder if I can turn that other light on from where I'm sitting. Yeah, I just moved into this place, so I'm trying to figure out. No. I hope it's not too dark. Is it too dark? Not yet. Hianaya sukuni miyashana yosunzo kinatisi tiomno yoshinitisna nikiniti. Thank you. It's starting to get really, really cloudy, and it's windy. I don't know if you could hear my wind chime, but there might be a storm brewing. I'm not sure. Hinikian sikia shoya sinikina yator kunimia sani shinikin sanitisayasi. It's funny, I just moved into sort of a short-term situation in a earth ship in northern New Mexico. And I'm glad. And it's off the grid. And so you just kind of immediately think about sun and rain differently. You're like, my water comes from the rain, so I hope it rains, and you think about sunny days and powering the solar panels, and you just start to think about your sort of coexistence with nature and how much like those resources are our life. Like water is life, light is life, right? So when you're living in a house that's powered that way, and I've only been here for like 10 days, it kind of just like immediately you immediately feel that connection. It's helpful for unity practice for sure. I need water. This is fun. I'm happy that everyone is here. Thank you so much for joining me. I haven't gone live like this in a long time, and it feels so nice to be connecting with you guys here. It feels like a very peaceful, safe place to be. Letting yourself relax, letting yourself open, letting tension be dissolved from you. Oh, I'm so glad. Hinikianaya sanjokiyo sokitana. Hiatani yono kuyumdo korokuni sanzania yanaya tokoma tanas. Siti tanayo tu yashtukana kana kuyotokoma tataya. Hinikian sakuyun chokoro konam nisi. Sio sokuni shiniti sansanitaya korokonaya. Hyokuyum da korro kini kini kini. Shini sansari toyo tokonuyum sho yayinian de yoto nomneis natrani kini ki yayoyo korro konasata shakiata. That's coming through as clearing the mental plane and sort of catching your thoughts before they really settle into form. So for example, when I first got here, I was noticing like my ego bring in thoughts, but my body still felt so calm and like certain. And then as I sort of let myself follow those negative thoughts a little, then I started to feel anxiety. And I think it's important that when those things happen to us, we use them and as lessons, right? As teaching materials for ourselves to see how our thoughts settle into form like that. So when we're focusing clearing in the mental plane, we sort of reorganize in that area, reorchestrate, and then that flows into physicality. This is really allowing it to flow into physicality, like let yourself be physically healed. We have to be willing to let go of everything we used to believe about ourselves, but what we're capable of in terms of being healed. And there's, in terms of the physical, there's a lot to undo. But don't limit the power of God. Don't limit the power of the spirit expression by saying, oh, that's not possible, or oh, I have to wait. Like, just don't intervene in any way. Don't intervene in what spirit is, what yourself in spirit has ready for you. Yanayini kineinsium sokoni shinikianayani tamaya kuyotuaya kunuyan sotani niyan. Hiyayatu yanishi yesu wanamaini kinayani tana. Shandaratoro yansiti siancha. There is a message of like a lot more information is about to come into your awareness, and sort of readying your physical system for that information and what it will change for you. Hienikianayun sonitinium sanitian waruituyan towi koyono piti sin santa sum shiriti sin santikanaya noyum diataya si shi yasanayan sakira ision sokinian ta hinna toyum no konipin sinianium tor kita sanishi Sandata yini yanda yini kianayati siriti shinitiorkin sioptoin sanayati sikas Shatu yayana sunnam nayana yumna yoyotu yadai yayana yakandara korkoyatat. Ayakorka yanatusum mitiya suniniya sansagi. Tiatika ini tiamani ni anayana wo ini tindiri tisoyo shuno sunsakini tishini kinzani tiatakini kini kini. Spirit's really focusing on the thoughts here, on clearing that mental plane out. Hitayato rahata. Yataratatata. I mean, at the lower levels, this looks like clearing attachments in. It looks like the false grid, right? And like unplugging yourself from the false grid, unplugging certain structures that we perceive as outside of ourselves from the internal structure, and like freeing your mind from the connection to that outward manifesting structure. What has power over you? What has power to influence your thoughts? What has power to control your life? Mia sanchikini tian sakuni. Dati kimi son sotisheneista tayana. Siotokor kitanin disnitaya kunima son sokinchiriti sin siti sinian. Kanamnayat oripin siotokina tain siti shiais. Sian saninium tikaya indara korkoyo poyo kuni tayatus. Sinti san chayas nin sikimi siti sishikini kina unium no oni. Hinatani kanati samatoko yatosoji siniatas. And it's for presence. That was one of the words that came through while I was sitting in meditation, preparing for this live. Being in presence. We're not thinking about the past. We're not preparing for the future. We're being in the presence of now. And that's like a really oversaid, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Probably not. We should say that to each other and to ourselves constantly until we learn it and live it, right? It's a very popular thing to say, being in the now, the presence of now, but it's because it's what allows you to really be alive, because now is the closest, me too. I'm constantly reminding myself, like, it's the closest we can get to what it actually is to be alive. Because when we live in the past or future, we're not letting ourselves like really live. We're not paying attention to what is. And when we pay attention to what is, then spirit moves through you and you are in complete recognition and experience of the, like, your provision, but like overflow, like your abundance, and in all of the ways that that means. And so the future is taken care of. There's a lesson in the Course in Miracles that I love. I place my future in the hands of God. Like, let yourself place your future in the hands of God. Planning is not of spirit, because spirit is now. Spirit doesn't see the future in the way that we do. And I have to say something that I'm going to be embarrassed to say as my human self, but it's coming through in the code. And I talked about this in my video before. I'm looking at my arms in this video and I am feeling my ego is like giving me all kinds of nasty ass insecure thoughts about the way my arms look. So there is always, when we notice those things, spirit will move through, because we notice them and we say, this is not a real thing. I don't want this anymore. And so that starts to release from you when you notice your insecurities and then you deny their reality. But the ego is kind of, the ego is still like really active. Yes. I think that's, the comment is, it's easy to be your own biggest enemy. I think that's completely true. I think that's important to recognize, that it is, when we perceive in other people attack, it is a reflection of the belief in attack and the deservingness of attack that we somewhere in our beingness believe in, right? And I think that's a really, I don't know, high level, advanced recognition to make, because that's where forgiveness is, to recognize the one life, the one, and also like the oneness in a sense, like we are one being. So in a sense, like our concept of our egos are completely separate, but like what we're perceiving in other people's egos is still just a reflection of our own ego, because we can't perceive from inside of someone else's ego. Like what you conceive of as who I am as like a human being on earth is not the same conception that I have of myself, right? So like what we're perceiving of each other is reflections of what, of our own ego, of what we've made of ourselves. And sort of dismantling that and taking that apart is the alchemy, is the work of the alchemy. I'm turning on a light. So I'm gonna step out of the frame for 1 second because it's getting way darker. There's like 18 million light switches in here. And I don't know what any of them do yet. I still haven't, I still don't have like the muscle memory of what all the light switches are for. So I have to turn them on and off. Mm. And also, I feel called to share, because there's so much information streaming into the earth right now from the sun. There are, I think we're on track for some really big solar flares and CMEs. That's a ton of, remember, light is information. So there's a ton of information coming through. So don't push yourself to do what you might think is like spirit work if you're feeling like fritzed out and overloaded in your system, right? If you start to feel strain, or your body starts to feel overwhelmed or kind of achy, or like your head might feel like pressure, like don't feel like you're giving up if you take a break. Because once you agree to be on this path, and once you reach like a certain point of seeing and remembering, I really don't think you can go back. And we need to be constantly in awareness and mindful of our thoughts so that we are not indulging and offering attack thoughts and fear thoughts to ourselves and to each other, which is the same. So we always have to be consciously aware of that. But it's also important to understand how quickly we can get on ourselves for not being like as spiritual as we think we should be in some ways. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. But like, don't stress yourself out with spirit work because that's not what spirit wants. And I think it's really important to, oh, I'm glad. I think it's really important to understand that spirit work can be done through anything that you do. A lot of people, will come to me and say they feel like they don't have gifts, or their gifts aren't expressing, or they don't have spiritual ability, or they want so much to see in a different way, or to have like different abilities or psychicness or whatever. Spirit moves through you in every expression, in every breath. And it certainly doesn't have to look or sound or manifest as one specific thing. And I think that's hugely important, because spiritual work should never make you feel insecure, and it should never make you feel bad about yourself, and it should never make you doubt. So if you're in those emotions, now you're working with the ego. And I think that that is an important distinction to make, because spirit is not going to introduce strain. It's not going to introduce like, will you notice insecurities and will you reckon with them and will you face every single one of your fears and like opposing negative beliefs about yourself? Yes. But if you feel stressed out or pressure, that's not coming from spirit. That's coming from your ego. And that's, I think, an important discernment to make, because spirit doesn't need you to be sitting in meditation with your back straight in order to get to you. It just needs you to pay attention to yourself in love, and it needs you to not judge yourself so that it can work through you. God can't use you as a teacher if you don't pay attention to yourself as one with God. And we're not doing that every single time we let ourselves believe anything less of ourselves. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as in your mind you're practicing alignment with spirit. Be kind. Are you kind to yourself? Are you kind to others? Are you forgiving? When you're judgmental, do you try to choose again otherwise? I think those are really the only things that matter, and everything else is gravy. Everything else is a phase. Yani kiani yani toyono korukin sani tiosu yani shini sayasi kaya soti sancheni kian sani kaini tayana yanaya turkanaya si tayanayo turkuniam satini yanian zoya shunoyo sukaya kini ayator kunam nais natrain kini ayashini ayisini kini tanam natu shiti sani sayashoyo kion so tamnato so o yanakoro anamnakina san shini asanion sokini tindiri koyotona mayaya tayini atana so. Ayatoni natani siatini aniana kuyum shinitis desan shitisani sion sokian sho yutini kion to kuyo tuyu tuyomota yato sonjo yisna kono yon sot yana kana kor kono im satayatoni karati soyatini kien disin joyoso soncharatro kin sanain sanayatunina. Shobin datop to koama soni shini an sanaya siasian siriti siasi. This is coming through as reunion with elemental forces, feeling yourself one with the elemental forces of the earth. They're not in opposition to you. The earth is not in opposition to you. We are one planetary body, one planetary consciousness. And right, this is all downstepped through dimensions. One solar consciousness, one galactic consciousness, one like quadrant consciousness, one universal consciousness, and one. Kini amnianduko ni mahana, yani shini sonsokinis no shan sikis ni titi koyom ni shini san, yandi sin sio yetimokum ni kina konuyum. Yatorahina torina tuyum no congenis sanitayana yatoision chiki siti sin sioshun sokinam nayon so yeti soyoshi sita soshi sinion tus siasho siti si sianos yashaya sinisi yotun darapor koni hikaya tumaya kuyonotu iti yapayo tusuta suma sunjo kunam nasan sanishum sini sanakanati sanitini kini tienda konimiya shi Sita sanchikia sakita sansatas natra. Oh man, now we're clearing through itch. It's because we're coming to a close now. All of this is starting to come out. Yati satato tani yatsati shikia satasa. Hyono arui payono kunim sokono shanis. Yotokorko imata. Yinikoyum soko yeshi. Watima yonuyin no konimiyon sokaya to yosunjiri. I think for the remainder of the time, we've got about 5 minutes left. We're going to work on experiencing your own worthiness, like liking yourself, liking hanging out with yourself, liking your expression without the need for validation, without the need for it to be reflected back to you in very specific ways, but for you to just enjoy yourself, to enjoy your being, to enjoy your hobbies, to enjoy everything that you're doing, and just to enjoy being yourself. And blessings. Hyono kunimashun sukana tani morin dayant. Hyona konoyan so yoshito yonokuin so. Tor kayaya, torro kayaya. Yata korro konaya. Hyono konimashin siosoin shikini kansantatis natretisin. We're really working on clearing these attack thoughts that come through. Katakara korro konamnatisi about failure. Hini anshoyo sonsoin sontu konomin. And like being hurt. What's coming through now is like a feeling like being a failure, or that you have failed, and like being really sad about it. Let yourself rest. Let yourself rest in God who loves you, in love itself, which you are. Let that show you what you are. Let yourself be awakened. Yanayini kini kumanatrikanian soyunchot. Yotini mi o yonokuni mi en shiniti sinsini kin diet. Yongyat yomno korkunam nashonokonimit. Yanikian sininian tuni. Hyonokonomni tiom tuim na tini kianiki naya nitis ni shinitin data kinyat. Yanayani nision chiritisi. This is very, very beautiful. The time for suffering is over. You have suffered enough. Hayani koyuncho konamnas natrata ina konamnayan, sunso kanaya sho, hini sani kamnahanta, hini sanjanoyum nakonim. Don't allow yourself to suffer for one more breath. Yanakini sonjokoninsi. Do not offer that to yourself. Hini kiyamawurum. Shini kensa kanja, so baya kuman, shini and son sokinias, siotoni mein si shoyos, shoyanatukum, shoni nikin si, sito isin nyon turkuin so, shoyotonam natesin shiti kaya yon, yakonoyan suntupai. Korgomatanik, Hyon yatikana kuimit, yono shamana. Okay. If you've been in meditation, Just taking some nice deep breaths to reconnect to yourself in this moment of self, this now, back into where you find yourself in the world. And we'll say amen. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me in this first live back. I had so much fun. I think this was really, really powerful. And I'm going to post a video for everyone. I'm just going to post it on my channel. So if you feel like things come through later, or you notice things after you go to sleep tonight and you want to come back and share in the comments, I think that would be really cool. And I'll be live again on Saturdays. We're going to do this regularly. So unless I'm traveling or something else happens, it'll be Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain, and Saturdays 11 a.m. Mountain. Saturdays we'll focus on the sacral center and the release of creativity, true creativity, not just like being an artist, but like true co-creation with life and the divine feminine presence and reality of being. So we'll do that on Saturdays. Again, thank you everyone for being with me tonight. For next nighttime live, I will figure out a way to make it brighter. And I love you all very much, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you.